Get your big butt out of here.
Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. I am Andrew Toysher, and I'm joined today by owner, operator, curator, whatever that means, runner of the Fantasy Guides account, Stephen Rippey, and contributor, I do this every time, and Fantasy Guides contributor, Jacob Rhodes. Yeah, I'm never going to get the hang of this. Steve, rip into me. Why do I suck
I
so
think,
much?
well, last week, I thought it was good. You were like, oh, stop it, intro music. If it keeps going, though, it could get annoying. But I liked it last week. I thought it was a good addition.
It's just a bit now, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll keep it going.
We embrace screw-ups on this podcast if you haven't listened before.
That's why we're all here. It's because we're all screw-ups.
Exactly.
And we come together. Speaking of coming together and doing things, this, again, free agency thing happened, and we came together last week, and we thought we were done. But of course not. The NFL never rests. So we're going to kick off the show today talking with some free agency news that we missed through the last week because we recorded on Wednesday and promptly on Thursday. I went back and checked the dates on a lot of these. They happened on like the Thursday after we had the pod. A lot of stuff came through, so we'll kick off the show talking about those. Then we'll get into some spicy future draft impacts. We'll dive into talking about how the draft, when it comes around, if you wait for something to happen in the draft, it's probably too late to your guys' values in underdog or in your dynasty league. So we're going to talk today about how some of the draft might impact in the future, use our little crystal ball and see what might go down. But some things we will not need a crystal ball for right off the rip is, again, some of this news popping in. And we at Fantasy Guides are very opinionated on this one individual, Justin Fields, and not in a positive way typically. But Jacob, I'll start with you. Were you a little surprised to see that Justin Fields was indeed traded for exactly one stick of gum?
Yes. Also surprised to see him immediately named as the backup. So we have a fun situation brewing in Pittsburgh. I'm sure there's going to be no controversy during the offseason and to start that year. I think, Russ is just going to be ready to go right as the season starts, right, Steve? There's couldn't be any issues going on.
Oh, God. And Russ, like, he was like within a nanosecond of the trade was like, congrats, I'm so excited to roll with you, and it's like, come on, dude. Like, there's a little too much. Like,
It's too much Russ.
Russ is difficult. And I may be biased because he beat my Broncos in a Super Bowl and then was horrible for us. But this was bad. This was bad, wasn't it? Like,
yeah. It's a 6 that can turn into a 4th depending on playing time.
So best case scenario, 4th. My thought is, there's some rumors that Justin Fields' agent was like, oh, we don't want him to have to be in that environment. There was rumors that the Bears didn't want the QB locker room to be toxic. Like, do we not remember not that long ago when Phillip Rivers got drafted by the then San Diego Chargers and Drew Brees just said, not on my dime, not on my watch, is he going to beat me out? Like, I feel like we're in just such a easy to cave generation of like, well, I don't want to compete. I want to go somewhere else now. Like, I don't want to play here anymore. And like
back in my day,
yeah, like I do sound like the old man on the hill, or it might get off my lawn, but like they gave him away for nothing. If I'm Chicago, don't you feel pretty good going into the season with Justin Fields and Caleb Williams as your quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Like,
they reportedly had better offers too, but that's where he wanted to go, was Pittsburgh. So they gave a better deal.
Oh my God.
Or a less favorable deal to them to let him go somewhere to go.
The pandering's too much, man. I feel like Chicago, they used a first round pick on him just 3 years ago. Was it top 10? Was he the 9th pick? I can't remember. He was close.
He was not top 10.
14.
He was close, like 10 or 11, somewhere around there. But a very high draft pick. They just give him away for free. In an ideal world, they just hold him, let his contract expire, and let Caleb Williams try to compete for that starting job this year. But that's just old man Steve.
So the contract piece, he has to have a new deal by May 2nd is what I had last seen, because he's coming up on his 5th year option for his rookie deal, I think is what I saw, or something with his contract. Something has to be figured out there.
He doesn't have the same agent as Jerry Jeudy, does he?
Hey, that was market value. Easy.
A lot of guaranteed money there.
So what week does Justin Fields start by, Andrew?
Oh my gosh, dude. It's I think he just is gonna be the starter. They recently came out and said that they actually did not guarantee Russ anything, and any sort of news that came out and said that they said Russ is the starter, it was not true. And so they just
Love
denied
that.
everything and probably told Russ, like, hey, we won't bench you immediately. And so Russ, being Russ, came out of that saying, well, I'm the starter, obviously. Steve, what are you
Also,
thinking?
are we even certain who's the third string? Do they have a third string
They
quarterback
don't.
right now?
All the quarterback room's completely changed. Rudolph's gone.
Would we even be shocked if Russ even makes it through the preseason if he got cut?
They said they cut him. They said they would cut him in training camp if he sucks.
He is so cheap that they could absolutely just cut him.
Yeah, they're not. The Broncos are paying him, not the Steelers.
Yeah,
They have no reason to keep him. I think it's a weird. I mean, Russ might be a backup quarterback at this point, and honestly, I mean, the guy
weird team
is
fit, isn't it? He doesn't feel like he fits that team.
He does. Where does he fit though?
Who, Russ?
Home.
Yeah. I will say though that Russ probably would be the best backup quarterback you could have. He would be a cheerleader for whoever he's backing up. He is a team player. You can't disagree with him there. But yeah, I think Justin Fields at this point in their careers is the much better option. And I would probably bet that Fields is the starter week 1.
Who do you want there for
feels
fantasy?
like it's still there.
For fantasy, Jacob, who would you prefer, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? If you're like it for George Pickens and such.
Oh, I think it's completely different. If I have Justin Fields, I want Justin Fields starting. If I have any of the options on that team, I want Russell Wilson starting.
I'm really torn on it. I think it could work out either way.
I'm just hoping.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping for Fields, just because if it is Fields, it means he did enough to beat out, Russ in training camp or during the offseason. If he can't, then I'm concerned that Fields is just a backup.
That might be it.
That
might just be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot swirling with this. We'll know a lot more. We will have a ton of time to talk projections and stuff with a Fields offense versus a Russ offense, and I'm sure we'll get into it.
Wait. I also have to talk about Kenny Pickett, because could that guy have thrown in the towel any quicker? Like, he was basically like, I'm a backup. I'm a backup. I'm a backup. I never meant to be a starter. You just trade me to Philly so I can back. Because he realistically, Russ, the talk is his career's over. Could be done, right? All the talk out of Justin Fields is he's just a backup quarterback. And Kenny Pickett's like, nah, I'm just going to go to Philly. That was my favorite team growing up. He knows he has no shot at beating out Jalen Hurts. So he literally was like, I plan to be a career backup, which, by the way, I think is the best position in sports.
Great decision.
I'm not in disagreement with it, but like, I'm
the
almost
Chase
applauding.
Daniels route. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, make a ton of money, no CTE, no concussions. You just go to practice. You get to hang out with the starters. It sounds great to me.
Yeah, they gave him, again, just traded for nothing, but this one made more sense. It was basically upgrading the 4th round pick the Steelers had. They now have a 3rd round pick instead of that 3rd round pick. So yeah, the news you're talking about, just to clarify for all the listeners who can't see it, is Kenny Pickett traded to the Eagles to upgrade a 4th to a 3rd round pick. So yeah, Steelers, just Russ and Justin Fields there hanging out in what's got to be a weird quarterback room. I mean, it is. It's a good one. It's a decent one.
The similar offer that I offered Jacob for, what's his name? The Bills backup.
Trubisky.
Trubisky.
Yeah.
Sort of a similar offer that I got rejected.
Yeah, but 4th round picks and rookie drafts are not as valuable as they are in the NFL.
Yeah, Justin Fields has more fantasy implications. Kenny Pickett, I just threw on there because, man, I think it's hysterical that he threw in the towel like that. But a guy with a little more fantasy implications here. Today, I believe it was this morning, recording on Wednesday, March 20th, Mike Williams, or was it yesterday? I don't know. Mike Williams signed a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Jets to be the 2nd receiver in New York for Aaron Rodgers. Steve, I'll let you kick off. What are you thinking for Mr. Mike Williams and impacts for Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers right off the bat?
I don't think it affects Garrett Wilson. He's not the type of receiver that's going to eat into I think we all think Garrett Wilson is a 30% target share type player, at least a 26% target share. And those guys don't get affected by Mike Williams. If anything, that's a good thing for Garrett Wilson. So I like it for Garrett Wilson. I like it for Aaron Rodgers, and I like it for Mike Williams too, to be honest. I think it's a good situation overall. I mean, the best situation would have probably been to just stay in Los Angeles if he could. But if we can see any resemblance of old Rodgers, I like this landing spot. Probably the worst is for Lazard, like that just kind of kills him. But other than that, I like the landing spot for Williams.
Yeah.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on it?
If we can see somewhat of a healthy Mike Williams, I think we can see a high-end wide receiver 3 with maybe wide receiver 2 upside, similar to what he was healthy for the Chargers. But I don't know how he survives MetLife Stadium.
That's a good point.
I don't.
Yeah, you know what? I hate it. I hate the whole thing. I forgot.
I just don't know how he gets through.
I think he's gonna have definitely like a good bit of upside, and don't draft Mike Williams for Mike Williams' name. Like this guy who we're all hot and bothered for, he's always the guy who wants to like the wide receiver ones go. He's like that next group of guys who are like wide receiver 15 to 20, who you can convince yourself could be a wide receiver 1 in the right scenario. We got to move past that. It ain't happening for Mike. Wide receiver 3, perfect.
Yeah.
I think that could definitely is a real outcome. I think it's really good for Rodgers. I think he's going to be more immobile than a normal 40-year-old quarterback because he just tore his Achilles. So he's going to need weapons he could just chuck it to. Because if the pass rush gets through, he needs to just launch it to somebody.
And he's going to have some of those high-pointed passes where Rodgers just like Mike's down there somewhere, and Rodgers is so technical with his throws that he can get it to a spot that only Mike Williams can get. So I think it's a good combo of the two.
He can get it in a lot of different spots.
For sure.
The dude can jump.
Good for the whole offense, I think. Not too intimidating. It's like a good friend who isn't. You're not afraid of them stealing your girlfriend or anything, but like they're just good enough friends and a good enough person. You don't got to worry about it. Mike Williams is a good friend, good buddy there.
He got good money too. That's pretty good money. Yeah, wide receiver, good money.
Classic 1-year deal, more money. Another guy, wide receiver, moving on to a new team, longtime Charger as well. Keenan Allen, next one is Marquise Brown finding his way. I flipped my order on my sheet and on the slides here, so we're going into this. Marquise Brown finds himself signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. The number 1 signing. You want a free agent to sign somewhere, you want them to go to the Chiefs, and that's exactly where he finds himself. 1 year, $11 million deal. I find it hard to believe he couldn't have gotten multiple years other places. Like, he's definitely not awful. So my guess is he goes to the Chiefs, finds himself in a grand situation. Jacob, what do you think in Hollywood Brown? Would you draft him wide receiver 2? Is he going to be the top receiver there?
I don't think he's the top receiver there. I think that belongs to Rashee Rice, and you still have Travis Kelce that's going to be playing and taking a lot of those underneath routes. So I like him more as a wide receiver 3. He's got upside. I think it's going to be inconsistent. He's going to be that new MVS kind of in town, but with hands. So that'll be good for Mahomes. It's
that small thing with hands.
It's more of a boost to Mahomes than anything. I think for Marquise Brown, it might be a downgrade on his position from what he was in last year, is like that the only kind of go-to target, but there wasn't a lot of health going on last year for either him or Kyler. So hopefully he gets some more consistency in Kansas City. He's on a prove-it deal. I think what this most affects for me is the Chiefs in round 1 now. I don't see them drafting a receiver. It seems far less likely now, even though it is only a 1-year deal. I think this is kind of the person they're going to lean on this year. Maybe they draft a later round wide receiver now instead of reaching in the first round.
Steve, what are you thinking?
I agree. I think we all penciled in one of these combine, free
Savior worthy.
One of these receivers that look really good. I think we were penciling them in for the 32nd pick in this draft. I still think that could happen, but now I think it's way more up in the air. I think it's like could even be like a 50-50 because they have Brown. I feel like the Chiefs, because they have Mahomes, they just don't feel this need to fill that position. Now maybe they'll feel that way when Travis Kelce retires. Maybe they'll feel like they need to reach for a wide receiver, but they've done it in the past. They did it with Sky Moore. They did it with Mecole Hardman, and it didn't work out. It did work out with Rashee Rice last year. I think they're confident in Rashee Rice. He definitely, I think the second half of the season had like a near 27% target share. So I think they're definitely happy with him. I don't know that I feel confident that Marquise Brown even plays past this 1-year contract. I think it's very up in the air. I did post about it a couple days ago that Mahomes hasn't had a wide receiver hit an 18% target share since Tyreek. And Marquise Brown hasn't dropped below a 23% target share since his rookie year. I think it's possible he could drop below that this year. We could see Marquise Brown at like more of an 18 to 20% target share. I'm not saying he can't get above that, but I do agree with Jacob. I think he's the number 3 in this offense, this passing game. And I don't know that it's actually a great move for him. I think he's going to have maybe bigger spike weeks than he might have had in other places, but I do think he's going to be inconsistent. And Mahomes, he's good at spreading the ball out. He doesn't just focus on one guy. So I don't know. I think it's kind of honestly, him with Kyler going to Mahomes might have been a lateral move.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. In Arizona, it was like bad offense, but he's the guy. And now in Kansas City, he's not the guy, but good offense. Kind of like some other free agent moves we've seen. Like I think like Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift. It's like it's kind of just a push. Just because somebody goes somewhere new doesn't mean we have to throw our hands up and be like, all right, forget everything. Everything's changed. We don't know what to do. Yeah, I definitely think the Chiefs would take a receiver still in the draft, but yeah, not in the first round. More in like third, fourth would make a lot of sense for them. Going on to a guy I was trying to intro earlier, but Keenan Allen, the other Chargers receiver, is going to the Bears for a 4th round pick. So the Chargers, let's talk about impacts on Justin Herbert because they don't have receivers. I think on their roster right now is Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, Josh Palmer, and one other unfortunate individual I cannot remember. So, Steven, I'll let you start this time. Justin Herbert, help, please?
Yeah, and I think that the only thing that scares me with Justin Herbert, if I have Justin Herbert, let's say, and I'm going, oh, well, they've got the 5th pick. That's a lock for either Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, or at the very least, Brock Bowers. But there's teams that want to trade up still, right? So there's still teams that could trade up to the 5th spot, like Minnesota or Denver. Denver, now that Minnesota just jumped them one spot to try to get a quarterback. So what kind of makes me nervous is if they trade back. Now, they could still trade back. If they trade back with Minnesota or Denver at picks 11 or 12, I feel actually okay about that because then I think they could still potentially get Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers, but also if they don't get those guys, maybe Rome Odunze could potentially fall to them there. So what I got to think, they don't have a receiver room. So I think at the very least, they're going to draft one at 5. And depending on if they trade back to 11 or 12, they're going to draft. I'm going to hope, cross my fingers, Rome or Malik. So I think I think we're all really scared right now because that receiver room looks terrible. But I think they're getting somebody good here.
Jacob, what do you think it impact-wise for the Keenan Allen on the Bears? Probably Caleb Williams now that Justin Fields is out of town. Where are you taking Keenan Allen on the Bears?
So Keenan Allen's ADP, the last I saw in Best Ball, was like wide receiver 27. It was like 5 spots down from what he was at right before he got traded. It's a downgrade for him. I think Caleb's going to be great, but he's the number 2 receiver now on that team. And it's a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterbacks don't often support one top 36 wide receiver, let alone 2, unless you're CJ Stroud or, we've seen some outliers, but it's just not very likely. So it's a downgrade for him in fantasy. He's going to be very hard to trust, even as a mid wide receiver 3 is probably where he's being drafted. And that's probably about the highest I would go with him. But what we used to know as the consistent Keenan Allen getting a lot of volume I don't think we're going to see that so much in Chicago. So it worries me a bit. And he's aging. He's only getting older.
I absolutely agree. He had a 32% target share last year because Mike Williams gone that entire year, and Justin Herbert was there for most of that year. It is a big hit to Keenan, a big plus. Good job, Bears.
Yeah,
excellent job, Bears. Getting Caleb Williams some weapons. Like, he's going to step in. Caleb Williams, if he goes number 1 overall, they'll step into DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, not Darnell Mooney anymore, Equinemius St. Brown. He has plus receivers all around him. Good job. And DeAndre Swift toting the rock. And what might be a receiver or an offensive lineman with that 9th overall pick additionally. Good job there, Bears.
Yeah, any last thoughts on supporting their starting quarterback? That's a wild thing to do.
Crazy.
I don't know. I got, this is recent news, so I've still got the entire offseason to digest it. I don't know. I see DJ Moore at wide receiver 11. I see Keenan Allen at wide receiver 27. I think that's a big gap.
It's too big of a gap. Yeah.
I think I'm buying Keenan Allen at wide receiver 27. I don't know that he's not the wide receiver 1 there. Now, his age is playing against him. I don't know if you guys saw, he was just at Caleb Williams Pro Day today.
Fun little pro day.
So he's already got a little FaceTime ahead of DJ. I'm not convinced he won't be the wide receiver 1 for at least one season there. So right now, wide receiver 27 with what is arguably a generational prospect at quarterback. I mean, he is considered a better prospect than CJ Stroud, who just made Tank Dell and Nico Collins essentially wide receiver 1s for at least part of the season.
Yeah.
I think I'm buying into Keenan Allen at his ADP.
It'll be interesting. That he's a great fit to DJ Moore. DJ Moore was bad against man coverage last year and really good against zone, and Keenan's the exact opposite. And Keenan, even though he's getting older, it's really just the injury issues that are concerning, because his play style, he'll be able to play just fine at an older age.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is an awesome combo of guys. Just please, Chargers, please draft some sort of receiver, or else it's Quentin Johnston's season, which none of us want. Going on to another guy. I had to force this one on here. I think low-key this is a really cool signing that could be this Keenan Allen-esque value. Curtis Samuel finds himself not in a huge deal by any means. On the Buffalo Bills, he was with the Commanders last year. Curtis Samuel, 3 years, $24 million, $15 million guaranteed, if I'm remembering right off the top of my head. Now, Curtis Samuel, up and down, massive, flashes. He's awesome. He's great. And then they'll just disappear and lots of injuries. Definitely always been talented, though. So on the Buffalo Bills, who are notorious for throwing to slot receivers, Khalil Shakur has been making a name for himself at the end of last year. And Curtis Samuel's better than him. We saw Cole Beasley in recent years. I think he was close to a wide receiver 1 year, if not actually one. Jacob, I'll let you start. Curtis Samuel, are you excited, or am I overplaying this for Curtis Samuel next year?
He's going to be what he has been, I think, for all of fantasy. And we talked about it a little bit. He's going to be sneaky good. That's going to be what everyone's going to kind of assign to him, is sneaky good. I could see a wide receiver 3. He was wide receiver 42 last year, and he actually played most of the year, which is unlike what he usually does. So, but he's getting a clear upgrade at quarterback. He's getting a clear upgrade in the offense. There's no Gabe Davis there to take away targets, so he can definitely fill in that wide receiver 2 role for the Bills. You got to think, if Diggs stays, there's always been trade rumors swirling around him for the past couple off seasons, but assuming he stays, Dalton Kincaid probably takes a step up. Shakir might take a step up. So might be an ugly wide receiver 2, but I think there's some wide receiver 3 upside and maybe some spot start potential for fantasy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very excited about it. Steven, is it just me and Jacob? Are you more you like, good value, or do you think he actually could be like a wide receiver 2?
I don't think he'll be a wide receiver 2.
Trying to get excited, Steve.
I feel like I've seen the Curtis Samuel movie enough times, and now this is probably the best situation he's been in, but I think he could have one of those stretches like he did 2 years ago, where he starts out the year and he's a top 12 wide receiver for however many weeks it was. But I think as the year goes on, the consistency will decrease. And I think he's still, I would put him as like that wide receiver 3 range. I don't think he finishes top 24. Now, Stephon Diggs gets traded or something, which I actually do think. I don't know. And this is speaking without knowing all the contract details. If the Bills can get something good for Stephon Diggs this year, I think they should do it with this wide receiver class that's coming in. I think Diggs, is this his age 30 season? He'll be 31, I think, in November.
Maybe the Chargers will give him a 4th.
And, that's probably, it depends on the timing of all this stuff. If depends on who you're trading him to, or if a team's like needing, is close to making the playoffs, which would mean they'd have to hold on to him, into part of the season. But I do think we're going to start to see kind of the Diggs slide. We already saw it a little bit last year. And he's just a little bit of a headache to deal with. I think they should look to get their new Stephon Diggs in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from what all I've heard is Diggs looks like he'll be staying in place, but obviously things change. Diggs is clear. He's writing cryptic messages on social media. Anything is happening.
Which is what he does every year. It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 25 in 2020, catching passes from Teddy Bridgewater. And most recently in 2022, he was a wide receiver 34. I'm going to get myself excited. This will be the guy I'm taking as my 4th receiver in almost every league.
Who's got him in our Dynasty League? Because I do have Josh Allen, and I need some sort of stack. Oh, Day. All right. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna hit up his line.
He hasn't been responding in a while. Good luck.
Oh, great.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to move us into the second part of the show, which again, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube even. Steve was just telling me about how he's going to show me the reins of uploading YouTube pods. It'll be terrific. Find us wherever you can listen
I've heard
to
of
podcasts.
this thing called Stitcher. I think we're even on there, Andrew.
What is
wow.
What is that?
I don't know, but I hear it on other people's podcasts, and I'm pretty sure we're on it.
I think Stitch is like a little blue guy from a Disney movie from a while ago. Jacob, Steven, either of you get those? Get that reference?
I get the reference. Never saw the movie though.
Yes. Jacob, at all?
I blanked on what you were just saying. I was looking at something else. What'd you say?
Stitch, Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, yeah.
Movie.
Of course I know Lilo and Stitch. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Big Disney guy. I will out myself as such. I'll make a Disney themed show at some point. You guys are now going to be subjugated to that.
We can do that.
Alrighty. Speaking of themes, going on to the second half of the show, like I said, we want to talk about some future draft impacts we have coming up. The draft is going to be at the end of April. All right, so we got a month. And, you could sit idly by for the next month and like twiddle your thumbs and not make any moves. Fine, whatever. What's a lot of people are going to start doing is just, grabbing their phone and trying to trade for draft picks because that's what everyone wants. They want the draft picks. It's going to be sexy. You get to have your rookie draft soon. What we're going to set up here is some impacts that could happen on draft day that we're trying to predict. Look into our crystal ball, like you see there on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, and figure out what's going to happen in the future. What can we predict that's going to happen that's going to shift fantasy, dynasty, underdog, whatever values, so that we can get ahead of the trend. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. We know it's a bit early, but if you wait until the week before the draft, people are already going to be talking about this, and it's going to be too late to draft these guys or change your opinion or trade these guys. So we're going to hop into it. We're going to go a guy at a time and talk about some of the future impacts of guys such as Justin Jefferson, who I believe is, Jacob, was this your obvious winner?
It was my obvious one that has a lot to gain from the draft.
Excellent. Before you hop in, I'm going to preface. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and talk about some obvious winners, some obvious losers of the draft. We think people will be like immediately in on as soon as the draft happens or even before. Then in the second half of this segment, we're going to see some guys that are sneakier that we don't necessarily think others are going to think of until even after the draft, maybe. So an obvious winner for you, Jacob, Justin Jefferson. Tell us more about it.
I think he has a lot to gain in the draft because if he doesn't gain a rookie quarterback in the draft, it could be ugly. So with Darnold at the helm, it's probably, we might rank Jefferson as like a low end wide receiver 1. It'll be tough. Yeah, I know it'll be tough to rank him very high next year. But if they trade up and they get a rookie like they're wanting to do, I think we can still rely on Jefferson as an elite wide receiver for fantasy, which I'm very much hoping we can do. It's not going to be Kirk Cousins. Those days are gone. He's in Atlanta now. We got to get that out of our heads. They're not going to throw like they did with their rookie quarterback. It's going to be someone new, but I think that someone new can rely on, the best receiver in the NFL and force feed him targets. And whether they are good or bad targets, I think a 30% target share is still very, very likely. And with that sort of volume, he can still be reliable in fantasy and hopefully still a top tier wide receiver.
Steven, what are your thoughts on this? You think he's an obvious winner?
Yeah, he was one of the guys I picked as an obvious winner. You stole my guy.
No, you have counterpoints. You have counterpoints.
No. A week ago we talked, and I was like full panic mode on Justin Jefferson. But then the Vikings trade up, and at worst they're getting JJ McCarthy in this draft. I feel like that's the guy that they've been rumored to want to take.
Yeah.
And so they'll get somebody at pick 11. They're getting one of these quarterbacks with the potential of possibly trading up. If Belichick was still in New England at pick 3, I'd be like, oh, that's happening. Like he's definitely trading back. But so I there could still be a little window of people worried about Justin Jefferson because of and don't get me wrong. I've heard people saying, oh, well, he did it with Nick Mullins. He can do it with Sam Darnold. No, he cannot. Don't give me your 4-game sample size and try to extrapolate that over a full season. Like I think the Sam Darnold experience would get ugly, at least from what we're used to with Justin Jefferson. But I think if he gets a quarterback like McCarthy, Bo Nix, any of these guys, I think he's going to be just fine. And I'm back in on Jefferson.
Yeah, to show my hand a little bit, one of the guys I have is a loser later on is Vikings wide receivers. So I'll give some points I have on that. Essentially, it's I don't think it's a good thing for them to have a rookie quarterback. I think it's going to be kind of a terrible thing, actually. I just think he's already a loser, and I guess he could gain more by getting not Sam Darnold. But just some statistics again, not to show my hand too much for what I'm going to talk about later. But there have been 3 wide receivers in the last 5 years that have finished top 15 with a rookie quarterback.
Can I try to guess them?
Yes, go.
All right. So I believe it was Reggie Wayne with Andrew Luck.
5 years. Last 5 years.
Well, that was shoot. That takes the other one I was going to say was
Nico.
It's not the last 5 years, but was who was it? It was DeAndre Hopkins. No, he wasn't even.
At least not in the last 5 years. Not what I had down. Nico was one. Can you guys get another one? There's one this year. Another one.
With a rookie quarterback?
With a rookie quarterback starting the majority of the games.
Was that it? Was it Thielen?
Not
No.
Thielen. Didn't finish strong enough.
Tank didn't play enough games.
Yep, definitely another wide receiver one this year. 2 of the 3 happened this year.
Why?
Oh, I'm cheating
I'm
now.
blanking hard. Yeah,
I'm going
back in
to
your
the
brain. It's a weird one. Think one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in the last 3-5 years.
A rookie played most of the games with Davante Adams?
It's
Davante Adams. He was
Okay.
the wide receiver 11 this year. Nico Collins, wide receiver 12, and there is one more who finished top 15. This is kind of like the poster child before this year of guy who got good rookie quarterback. I think 2020.
2020.
It was Kyler Murray. That was the other one. It was DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray, right? His rookie year?
Not in the last 5 years.
Oh, no, that was
out in the West. Keenan Allen finishes the wide receiver 14 with Justin Herbert as his
Oh,
quarterback.
yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on there. Larry Fitzgerald, I guess, would have been the top receiver for Kyler Murray back in 2019. So it didn't quite make the flip over there. But anyway, rookie quarterbacks, terrible in fantasy. There's not been a single in the last 5 years, not a single wide receiver who finished finished in the top 10 with a rookie quarterback in the last 5 years. Not a single one. Well, I know Justin Jefferson's the best, but Davante Adams is pretty good too. And Keenan Allen, you fighting back there?
Well, no, I was just going to say, I don't even know I was just going to say, what's the sample size of because you have to have a good wide receiver to finish. You still have to be good.
Yeah.
To finish top 10 or top 12. And so getting that paired with that quarterback isn't always a match made in heaven. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of the thought I had too. But then that's where the Nico Collins, he's a good receiver, definitely a plus receiver, was a wide receiver 1, but barely. Keenan Allen was really good back then, and he was not a top receiver. That was one of the best rookie quarterback seasons ever. And CJ Stroud supported one. Aiden O'Connell supported a Davante Adams. Davante Adams is still pretty good. So I'm just saying.
Hey, there's only 10 to 12 quarterbacks in the league that can support a top 12 quarterback. So every year.
And I get what you're saying, Andrew, but so when you say this is a bad thing for Jefferson, I assume you mean it's a bad thing for him to finish number 1 overall.
Those days are gone right now.
For him to go top 5 in a draft, I don't know if I'll even sniff that.
I agree with that, but you still think he's going to finish top 10?
I lean that way right now. We will get into projections.
If he gets JJ McCarthy, if there was a bet, I would bet on him finishing top 10.
I think right now with Darnold, you have him outside of the top 10. And my argument here is if they at least draft a rookie quarterback in the first round, you can rank him top 10 comfortably. I think rely on him for fantasy still.
But I would worry more about the other guys because I think it would be Justin Jefferson because there's even more strong evidence of a quarterback not being able to support more than one.
And he's the alpha there for sure. Yeah.
So I would worry a lot. Casey in our league traded Addison for Kirk Cousins, and
throw him under the bus with that one.
We were all just making so much fun of him, and for good reason.
Yeah,
but doesn't look quite as terrible today to me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Superflex guys.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson, I'm not saying he's some schlub, or he's going to be terrible over the next few years. but I definitely think that I'm going to raise some concerns. I'll do a good bit of research this offseason looking into it for you guys. We'll maybe make that an offseason pod topic. Another guy, obvious winner, and I just love draft capital for running back. So this is the number one determiner for me. I'm calling the obvious winner of the draft. There'll be any running back who gets drafted in round 2. There is not going to be one drafted in round 1. There just won't be. It's not happening this year. There isn't that kind of running back. So we jumped to round 2, which is pretty normal. Like, we don't usually always have a first round running back. Plenty of times we see these guys go round 2, even if they're good. So what I'm saying is any running back who goes in the second round is going to be like a value, like that. He's going to be a big winner. Now, that makes me believe like the actionable information, the actionable thing to do here is if you do need a running back right now, everyone's on the street saying, you need a running back this draft? Won't be one. Go trade for one. I'm saying if you have like the super flex league and you have like the 108, 109, 110, and there's a running back who goes in the second round, let's say Blake Corum to the Chargers, like a lot of people are saying, that now might be a top 10 pick. And so if you have a top 10 pick and you're needing a running back, you can make other trades, but I'm not saying bail. Like if a guy goes second round, all of a sudden he's going to shoot up. Here's some Andrew statistics for you, because of course I prepared some. I'm on spring break, guys, and I'm absolutely loving it because I can do stuff like this and make crystal balls instead of dealing with kids. It's absolutely a dream. Steven, I'm seeing you're having the opposite reaction right now.
Oh, I'm just listening, man. Maybe I just have that.
No, the opposite reaction of children. You have more children in your life right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at some at the same time where you're talking, but yes, I have children all around me and entertaining all day right now.
So again, I hopped in and did some draws from the last 5 years of running backs in the last 5 years who were taken in the second round. So running backs who were taken in the draft. I'm not saying the rookie year, but they were taken second round in their draft year. There were 19 of those guys taken in the second round in the last 5 years. 12 of the 19 at some point averaged at least 12 PPR points per game. I just had to pick a line. I'm like, if you got 12 points per game from a running back, that is serviceable. That's going to be your wide receiver 2 territory. That's fine. I'm not saying these guys are going to be wide receiver 1s anyway, or running back 1s anyway. So 12 out of the 19 guys in the last 5 years who were drafted in the second round, 12 out of the 19 had a 12 point per game or better season.
Oh, wow.
Round 3. So we're just drop one round. And that's what I'm saying. Round 2 is special. It's something to hang on to. There were 30 such guys who were drafted in the third round and played a season in the last 5 years. 30 such guys. Only 14 of those found themselves ever having an RB or 12 point per game season in PPR leagues. 14 out of 30. That's 46% in round 3 versus 63% in round 2. That is a significant jump, even if it doesn't sound like it. It goes from minus odds to plus odds. So I think whoever gets drafted in round 2 is a massive, massive winner. And we can't just do this thing of, we've been talking all offseason. Take these guys, juggle them up in your hand, toss them out. Whoever is your favorite, they can be your favorite. If a guy goes round 2, he deserves to be your favorite. Exactly.
He's the favorite. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And here's the thing, I think from an NFL GM standpoint, the Chargers with the 5th pick in the second round, I think that's too early to take a running back because they have the 5th pick.
Not for Greg Roman.
Yeah, tell Greg Roman that.
I know. And I was about to get to that, but I was going to say I would prefer they wait till round 3, pick 5. I think that would be the perfect spot for them to take a running back. However, we just talked about, Blake Corum. We know Jim Harbaugh's there. That I could easily see that happening. We see that happening, especially with these college coaches. We saw it happen a couple of years ago with Urban Meyer taking Travis Etienne early.
Just to clarify for listeners, Michigan running back Blake Corum and now head coach from Michigan in LA, Jim Harbaugh.
Yes. Yeah. Like these guys, it's not always the guy they necessarily coached. Sometimes it can be, they played against this guy in the SEC or something like that. And they take these guys. And I think they sometimes don't make the right decision. They get like excited. I could see that happening though with the Chargers still taking Corum at pick 5. And if that happens, yeah, I'm all in on that. I don't care that he's 23.5 when the season starts, or maybe even older than that. I'll ride that for a little bit.
Now, Jacob, I know you, when we were talking in the pod earlier before we started, had specific thoughts about landing spots potentially in like the second round having a big impact for you.
Yeah, there's one team that like needs a starter right now, and if any running back goes to that team, especially if they went in round 2, because draft capital means a ton, they're going to be very important for fantasy, and it's the Dallas Cowboys. They've got Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn as their starters right now. They didn't look anywhere in free agency unless they decide to bring back Zeke for whatever reason. So they're going to be looking in the draft for a running back, and there is a clear role there that is open for someone to take advantage of. And whoever is starting at running back for that offense is going to be very relevant for fantasy football.
And they have a better spot at pick 24 of the second round. Like that doesn't feel as forced.
Yeah.
I mean, if a team says, hey, our second pick in the draft, I'm picking you a running back, low valued position, and it's, again, a place like the Cowboys, dude, if like Trey Benson or Jonathan Brooks is the hype because Texas guy, Texas people love Texas people. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Jacob, I'm going to shoot right back over to you for an obvious winner you had as well. So Steve's obvious winner actually was Justin Jefferson. You had yours as a sneaky winner, I think is what I had it. So Marvin Harrison, or would you have these flipped?
This one, you had it flipped. This one's Steve's.
Okay, yeah, Steve's this obvious winner, Marvin Harrison. Tell us, why is he an obvious winner for you potentially coming out of the draft?
Because I think there's no chance he makes it past pick 5. I think he either gets taken by the Cardinals at pick 4 or very likely the Chargers at pick 5. And if that happens, he's tied to Kyler Murray and or Justin Herbert. And the quality of those quarterbacks, I don't think I have to really argue too much as to why I like that landing spot. Some other things people might not think about, both playing a dome. So we see guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson, these guys that play in domes. They just never have to deal with inclement weather, wind, rain, snow, anything like that. So I think these guys are just going to get tons of just elite or pristine fantasy conditions, if you will. And just talking about Kyler Murray, prior to last season, he only played the second half of the season, and that was the coming out party of Trey McBride. So that could be part of it. But prior to 2023, it was the only year the Cardinals didn't rank inside the top 12 in targets to wide receivers. And those can, like I said, likely be explained by Kyler Murray missing a lot of last season. Marquise Brown was banged up he missed at least 3 games down the stretch last year. So the best receivers they had were Greg Dortch and Rondale Moore. Yeah. But in 2022, the Cardinals targeted the wide receivers the second most in the NFL. 2021, the 12th most. 2020, the 6th most. And 2019, Kyler's rookie year, the 5th most. So Kyler targets wide receivers. So regardless, I think he's going to one of those 2 teams, and I think that's like a perfect landing spot where he could hit the ground running right away and have a long, good career. And like I said, all the other things I talked about, the dome, everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of vacated targets in Arizona too. Arizona would be perfect. He could literally go there and have an immediate 30% target share, and it wouldn't be surprising.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's the most pro-ready receiver and possibly the highest upside receiver. So it's just ridiculous. If he goes somewhere with a good quarterback, which, like you said, I don't see why he wouldn't be. Unless he slips to the Giants at 6, then we throw all this out the window.
If that happens, that will be a sad day. That will be bad.
Yeah. But we don't think that'll necessarily occur. No. Now switching the tone, going away from risers, guys who we think could be potential winners, to not losers, because last time I got reamed for saying losers, because this is a family pot. Alrighty, positivity. They're not losers. They're fallers. They're fallers. Is that better, Steve? Fallers?
Yeah, I like fallers. Fallers is good.
Okay, good, wholesome fun here for the family.
Yeah.
But here's why some of these guys might suck next year, because of the draft. Our first obvious faller, guys who we think people like, if something happens, will immediately start dropping like a sack of bricks. Steven, your first faller that you had picked from the potential from the draft was Ramondre Stevenson, running back for the New England Patriots. Why do you have him as a potential obvious faller?
Well, this, for me, kind of depends on if they take Jaden Daniels. So for this example, I'm assuming that they're taking Jaden Daniels at pick 3, because I think they do need to take a quarterback. I don't think Zappy is the answer there. Maybe they trade back. If they trade back, I'm not as strong on this take, but I'm going off them taking the 3rd best quarterback with the 3rd pick in this draft. And for Jaden Daniels, he's a scrambling quarterback. He is RG3. He is Lamar Jackson. I don't see a lot of dump downs. Like 2 years ago, I want to say he had 69 receptions, Ramondre Stevenson. He had a ton of receptions. It was a ton of receptions. He's not an explosive running back, so he relies on the fact that he's a decent receiver. He can catch a lot of dump off passes and hopefully get a lot of goal line touchdowns. Well, Jaden Daniels, he's not going to be Jalen Hurts, but is he going to rush in at least 5? I would think 5's the floor. Maybe he runs, and a lot of times rookie quarterbacks tend to scramble more than veteran quarterbacks. So the dump off passes are going to be almost non-existent in my opinion. And he's going to get siphoned at the goal line. And then we're also going to see Antonio Gibson is going to come in and spell him. I know this doesn't really pertain to the rookie part of it in the draft as much, but he's already going to be taking a hit from Antonio Gibson. So people that are expecting a bounce back season from Ramondre, maybe he somewhat bounces back because last year was so bad, but he's a guy I just kind of want to get off of. I'm kind of all out on Ramondre because I still don't think this offense is going to really be that good anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think that the two things we care the most about, touchdowns or receptions, might not be there for him.
Yeah. I do think the offense will be better than last year, but that is not saying a whole lot of good stuff for them. Yeah. It's a real low bar. I think the receptions are gone as well. The touchdowns are going to be minimal in a bad offense. He's going to be relying on carry volume and like good yards per carry and a lot of rushing yards. And I don't see it.
I'm starting to read the tea leaves here a little bit. I really think the Commanders are going to end up taking Jaden Daniels number 2 overall. I mean, think about again, you said the Patriots signed Antonio Gibson. Why on earth are you signing Antonio Gibson, notorious fumbler, if you're planning on bringing in Jaden Daniels, like in pass catcher? And same with Ramondre. And they have no other pass catchers. But and then think about what the Commanders went out and did. They went out and did not sign any receivers. No, they didn't really need to, but they let Curtis Samuel leave. That would have been a good weapon for a young quarterback. They let Gibson leave. They brought in Marcus Mariota. He's not a running quarterback, or he's not a throwing quarterback. He's a running quarterback. So I don't know. I'm reading tea leaves. And word out there is that Jaden Daniels might be the second quarterback in this draft. We'll see. We'll see. Going on to our next obvious faller, one Jacob has for us. Why is Xavier Worthy, the speed god himself, running a 4.2, an obvious faller for you in the draft?
Not necessarily a faller. I just think he has a lot to lose if the landing spot is not good.
Good clarification.
I think he can still be good in a poor situation, but his ceiling is just way higher if he can end up on a team like Buffalo or maybe Arizona late in the first. Or maybe he still does go to the Chiefs. So those sorts of situations, his ceiling is way higher. But I think he's a type of player that it's going to have to be an offense that's established and good to like be able to get the most out of him. And there's just some teams that are drafting even later in the first round or really early in the second round, if he goes there, that it scares me for his value if he were to end up on the Panthers or the Commanders or the Patriots. Like it worries me a little bit. So those sort of spots, it scares me more. And now with Marquise Brown being on the Chiefs, that being less of an option than it was a week ago, I don't love what might come out of the draft for him.
Steven, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I do think there's a very good chance he goes in the second half of the first round.
Yeah.
But
which would be good. All those spots are good.
Well, I don't know that all those spots are good. It depends.
For the most part. Yeah.
Let's just, at 15, do you want him going to the Colts? I'm not.
Oh, he's not going that high.
Oh, I don't think he's going that high.
Oh, I'm just starting from the second half of the first round.
Okay.
So obviously, like Seattle, he's not going there. The one spot I kind of like is if he went to maybe Jacksonville at pick 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be earlier than what I feel like we're seeing him, but yeah, it would be a great spot, I feel like.
But yeah, you just go down. Like, I don't necessarily want him in Pittsburgh. I don't want him in Miami. I don't want him in Philly. I don't want him in Minnesota. I mean, maybe Dallas. He's still
Dallas would be good.
Actually, I would like that.
Dallas would be a decent spot. I mean, I doubt that the Packers will take a wide receiver, but I wouldn't hate that if they did, because I think he could beat out some of those guys. But yeah, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 spots that I like, but most of them I don't like as much.
If he falls out of the first, has 2 early second round picks.
Chargers.
Panthers.
Carolina.
The one Carolina Panthers.
And
they are going to nuke somebody.
Yeah, he'd actually be a good kind of compliment to Deontay, but I don't see that's what worries me. His value goes down if he goes there.
Good for NFL, bad for fantasy.
Or New England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gonna get off of that one. Get our young exciting guy. We don't want to see him hurt anymore.
We have to. You guys, all of us, we all need to get prepared for
Someone's
like
going there.
Another
they're getting somebody.
Another, like just we got to get prepared for some of these like just horrible landing spots like Zach Charbonnet last year in Seattle.
Yeah,
we have to mentally start preparing ourselves for some of these just buzz kills.
Oh, we'll have some pod topics coming up. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Another guy I think I'm afraid is going to be a faller. Whenever I started talking that Jaden Daniels stuff, I forgot I actually had Drake Maye here because. So I'm actually kind of mixed here. I really think I at first was not buying, and you can ask Jesse. We talked many times. We were not buying that Drake Maye wasn't going to. Like, he just is the second best quarterback in this draft. I'm wholeheartedly believing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, well, if he drops he might drop to 3 now because everyone's saying that. And I'm reading the tea leaves. I really think Drake Maye might drop to 3. And we did our mock draft episode. We were talking about, oh, what if this guy goes to the Patriots? What if this guy goes to the Patriots? Well, if Drake Maye goes to the Patriots, at first I was thinking that's awful. It sounds terrible. I'm going to assume with the current roster constructed, it's not a great spot. Offensive line is suspect. Receivers, Demario Douglas, Tyquan Thornton. No, thank you. Don't want either of those. Devontae Parker. Yes, the 30-something-year-old jump ball.
The worst route separator of the last 4 years. Yeah, he's great.
But if they take a guy in the second round, I was actually thinking on this. So I'm almost flipping my take here. I don't think Drake Maye's in that much danger. Because hear me out. If Drake Maye goes 3rd overall instead of 2nd overall to the Commanders, again, he has those guys. I'm going to assume if the Patriots are responsible and they take a quarterback top 3, that they'll take a receiver in the 2nd round, which tons of good guys there. Like, all of a sudden, the Commanders, they have Terry McLaurin, good receiver. Definitely the best receiver out of either team. Jahan Dotson, 1st-round receiver. He wasn't great last year. I don't think he's that much better than Demario Douglas. So all of a sudden, if the Patriots take a good receiver in the 2nd round, they don't look awful. Their offensive line is actually better than the Commanders. The Commanders is terrible. PFF ranked the Commanders, I think, like 24th, and the Patriots were 20th. But I think the Patriots are on the upswing versus the downswing with the Commanders. I actually don't know if Drake Maye is going to be that much of a follower if he goes 3, and I apologize for having him here like this. But what are your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Steve.
I feel like on paper, like the first thing I think is anybody that the Patriots draft, I want no part of. Like, that's just my gut reaction. So,
but think it through.
I think we can play devil's advocate there. Bill's gone.
Yeah,
that's going to be a whole different
Alex
unit,
Van Pelt
the way that team looks, the way that organization runs. It's going to be completely different. I feel like so.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to try to do what Houston did last year and have that quick. I mean, no one's going to have that quick of a turnaround again, but they're making overhaul changes like they did. So there's optimism to be had, and for fantasy, hopefully it's better with Bill gone. But yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on the fence on that one, Andrew. I mean, usually these quarterbacks they don't land in great situations very often. They usually land in situations that you're like, like Bryce Young last year.
There's a reason they're drafting high.
Yeah, there's a reason. But the Patriots historically, since they've had Robert Kraft, have not been that team. So, yeah, maybe I need to be less pessimistic on the landing spot and just kind of trust the organization maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I just threw Drake on there as like a quick, I need somebody, I'll throw him on there. And then I thought it through. It might not be as much of a drop. Something to take advantage of, maybe. I'm going to jump now to our next category, which is some dudes that are like sneakily like winners potentially of the draft. Like, not going to be some obvious, everyone's waiting for it. Like, it's like the obvious guys we already covered. These are some dudes who I think sneakily, even after the draft, people might not bump them immediately, or leading up to the draft, people aren't thinking about it. And Jacob, I'm going to jump to your pick first, because like I said, Steve had that overlap with Justin Jefferson earlier.
Yeah.
So a sneaky winner you have is Zamir White of the Las Vegas Raiders. Explain yourself, sir.
Yeah. Sneaky because I think he's being wrote off after the Alexander Mattison signing. And if you think Alexander Mattison is good, that's on you.
Ask the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't buy into that. There is a chance the Raiders draft a running back. I think they're one of those teams that they might look that direction if someone falls in the draft or if there's a bigger body guy that they like and they might bring in. But Zamir White, the last 4 games of the year, had 4 straight top 20 finishes, was the RB9 and averaged 15.2 points per game. He was getting a ton of volume, which we probably won't see again, but it was 21 rush attempts per game. He averaged 99 rush yards, and that was with only 9 receptions and 1 touchdown. He was still a top 10 running back. So it's a small sample size, but might have potential. He could be the workhorse in an offense that's rebuilding, and I don't think Madison's all that good. So as long as they don't draft a rookie running back, I think there's some upside to be had for Zamir White.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Air it out with Gardner Minshew? Like that's not going to happen. They're going to run the ball. Steven, any quick passing thoughts on Mr. Zamir White?
No, I think in the short term he is a winner. You said Alexander Madison. We've all not been fans of his for a while.
Yeah,
I don't know though that Zamir White's much better. In what I have seen. So I think they might just have 2 bad running backs. Is my worry. So I think this could be a trap a little bit for White, but absolutely right now, I think he could be a sneaky. Yeah, no, I agree with you because there is a chance they don't draft a running back and that they're just going in. I think they're in a rebuild. Vegas. I don't know if Antonio Pierce believes that or not, but I think that they are in a rebuild. And if they're smart, I think they just roll out with those guys, and they just see what they can do. And if that's the case, I really like Zamir White. I think he will be a great value. Kind of similar to like maybe not, I don't see this kind of high end expectation, but like a Rashad White from last year. Like he's not going to get the receiving work, but just Rashad White was he's the last guy standing. He was
what about Chuba Hubbard in Carolina? Terrible situation. Didn't get that many passes caught like Rashad, but just fine running back.
Yeah, I could see it very similar to what we saw kind of down the stretch for Hubbard. Yeah.
Zamir too. I don't know if you've seen him recently, but the dude is jacked.
He's a farm
he's
boy.
always looked like that.
He is, but he looks bigger this offseason. He's gotten bigger.
He looks like a boxer. Like he looks. Yeah, he's. I'm rooting for the guy. I have him in one dynasty league that I thought I would have to drop him, and then I was like, oh, I actually can hold on to him for a little bit.
Absolutely, Zamir White potential upside there as a pick. A sneaky winner I had a guy I actually just traded for in a league. Christian Kirk could be a sneaky big winner coming out of the NFL draft. Just some background. I'll go quick through Kirk because I want to get to these last couple guys before we go too long. But Jaguars fully planned, 110% planned on signing Calvin Ridley. In fact, they were going to re-sign Calvin Ridley, except for there was a clause in the trade they made that if they re-signed Calvin Ridley to an extension, they would have to give up a 3rd-round pick as opposed to a 4th-round pick to the Falcons. So instead of re-signing him, which they fully intended to, they needed him, they let him hit free agency, and then we're just going to give him the bag as soon as free agency period hit on Wednesday. Like on Monday, a lot of early guys came in. They had to wait until Wednesday to resign him because of the clause. Well, the Titans, division rival, roll up with an absolute bag that no one else was going to give him and plopped it on a seat, and now he's a Titan. So now all of a sudden, the Jags' top wide receiver is Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and who's slipping my mind right now? Oh, Gabe Davis.
Jones.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, Zay Jones. Like that's the receiving core. So the wide receiver 1 right now is Christian Kirk, undeniably. He was a wide receiver 11 in 2022 in fantasy. He is the top target. And so now it's like, okay, well, they're going to have to draft somebody. But if there's not a value at pick 17, and the Jags need other positions, they need a line really bad. They have defensive holes everywhere. They really, really need a corner, and they're in a good spot to get a corner. If no good top-fledged wide receiver goes there, I think Christian Kirk is a big winner and could see himself being a top 15 receiver next year. Any thoughts on Mr. Christian Kirk? Jacob, I'll start with you.
I'm a big fan because he's going to have volume, and I think he's going to be very consistent. So as long as they don't bring in some sort of alpha receiver, which given where they're picking, I don't see it being very likely.
Pick 17.
I'll be a big fan of Kirk. Steve, you know where he's going, an underdog right now?
I can look it up real quick. That's actually a good question because
I'm curious what the
he's
value
going.
is
He's
there.
going to wide receiver 34. So yeah.
Wow.
Huge value right now. But that'll change. That'll increase, I think, a good bit. But
I know. I put him on my what do you call it on underdog when you heart somebody?
Oh, they're in your queue.
There, he's in my queue.
Yeah.
To make sure if I ever miss a pick, he's getting drafted.
There you go.
He's writing love letters to Christian Kirk.
Yeah, no, and even last year in those games without without
Calvin
Ridley, he was great. So yeah, no, I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. I think at some point he's going to pull it together.
Yeah, I agree. Christian Kirk is the beneficiary there. On to some sneaky fallers, some guys we think could really low-key lose a ton of value in the draft. Starting off with Rome Odunze. Steven, I believe this is one of your guys. Am I not?
Yep.
Am I correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Rome Odunze, receiver out of Washington, projected to be a top 10 pick. Why could he be a sneaky faller?
Well, because it just all happens to be landing spot. You know, if he happens to land, if he goes as high as pick 6 in New York, like I think we're all in agreement that that's not working out like we'd hoped, right? We're not excited about that at all. There's
Daniel Jones, Drew Lock.
Like there's just no long-term plan at quarterback. I don't trust the organization. As Jacob said, I don't trust that field.
Yeah.
You know. But then you just look, like, let's just assume he's going top 15. You know, pick 7, you got the Titans. I don't want him landing there. I don't want him going to Atlanta. Chicago, no thanks. The Jets, no thanks. Minnesota, it's not happening, no thanks. Denver, like, I'm a Broncos fan, and I would
Jarrett Stidham.
What's that?
Jarrett Stidham.
I know, but like, I'm not excited. Actually, of those landing spots, Denver might be the best landing spot. I'm looking at it, and as much as I like the prospect, I just feel like there's a chance he could get JSN'd this year, where we love the prospect, and then he lands in a horrible situation where it's either an average or below average quarterback, or he's got competition that makes him like 3rd on the depth chart. So I hope it doesn't happen. I hope somebody saves us and he falls. I'd love for him to fall to like maybe pick 17 to Jacksonville, something like that. But I'm just nervous he's going to land in a spot that's not ideal.
Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. He's a true alpha receiver, and it looks like he's going to go somewhere that's just not going to let him live up to his potential, at least year 1. And
in the short term,
the short term, it might not be very exciting. You won't be looking at him a lot in redraft leagues, but there's some spots that he could go to that would still be okay. But yeah, it doesn't look great based on the way the draft board currently looks.
There's just a couple of spots I feel like that are good.
The Giants,
but there's way more. But there's way more landmines that are potential.
There's a lot of it's gross.
I won't rule out that he doesn't land himself in, like you said, Tennessee if he gets to number 7, because they have old receivers in Calvin Ridley. So
and they would do it just to spite the Jaguars, which is I didn't like the DeAndre Hopkins signing for them. I was like, and then I hated the signing of Calvin Ridley to basically AJ Brown money. I didn't love the trade of AJ. But that's what bad organizations do.
Rome. I think about Rome every single day. I love me some Rome Odunze. I think he might be better than Neighbors as the second receiver there, but I think
he does. I love him a lot. Yeah. So I'm scared.
Well, one guy I'd love to see throwing him the ball, who I don't think we'll get the chance to, but that Jacob has a sneaky faller. Our last sneaky faller we're going to get to here. Kyler Murray. You have him as a sneaky faller here, Jacob. I can kind of see why, but explain yourself. Why is everyone's small 3-foot quarterback a potential faller?
Well, what if they don't get one of the elite wide receivers in the draft? That receiver room right there, it looks worse than the Chargers, and that's speaking volumes. There's a chance there's some trade ups in the draft. It feels very likely right now they get Marvin Harrison, but on the off chance that they don't, I think he's a guy that he loses some potential in fantasy if he just doesn't have a number 1 target that he can rely on every week.
Yeah, lots and lots of talks that the Vikings might trade up to 4, and that would be the scenario that ruins that for you. Is that obviously Kyler's not going to get the top receiver if the Vikings trade up to 4 to get a quarterback. So this is the scenario we're talking about. Steven, what were you going to say?
I don't think it'll be terrible though if that happens. I think there's a good chance if let's just say Denver or the Vikings trade up, I think that there's a good chance he's still there at 11 or 12. And if that's the case, it's not quite as good as I think getting Marvin Harrison, but I don't think it's that bad of a drop off. Yeah. And I think he could be okay.
Yeah. If he gets one of the top 3, I'll be happy with it. But anything other than that would be a letdown from what we're projecting right now.
If they have to roll out with a Dortch
Yeah.
And
no, I like Michael Wilson, but he's not an alpha.
no, it's literally like a B team. He's
Yeah.
rolling with 1 year on with a B team roster and a bad offensive line.
The Dortch. I just love that as a name and in general. Please don't make us Dortch it up next year, Cardinals. Please just go get yourself a nice, sweet receiver that we can just throw so many targets to. Any passing last thoughts on future draft impacts? You guys excited for the draft? We got a whole month to wait, but it's close.
It feels too long.
Yeah, we've got March Madness to push us through a little bit, so tomorrow's going to be a good day.
I gotta say,
I can't wait, Andrew. I'm like, I keep thinking it's like coming up because we've been talking about it for so long, and I'm like, oh god, we still got another month, more than a month.
This is that chunk of time where we've done the combine, we've done everything. We pro days are all going to be done, and then we're going to wait 3 weeks, and it still won't be here.
Yeah,
it's going to kill us. Alrighty, but that will do it for us here. That is the thing coming to an end is the podcast. You can thank you for listening to the Fantasy Guides podcast. Find us again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever that is, YouTube. Go to the Fantasy Guides Instagram account. It's fantastic there. Follow. Buy a draft guide. I got the little MVP package there plugged at the bottom, Steven. I'm getting smarter. I'm getting better. Getting better graphics here.
Well, and it's I mean, it's a lot of you guys' information we're putting into this thing. So all that crunching of numbers that you, Andrew, and Jacob are doing goes into that. So people go buy that thing.
Absolutely. Out here, again, follow the Fantasy Guides page. Go to fantasyguides.com. Say goodbye to the listeners, friends.
Bye, friends.
See you guys.